If we have a history of abandoning self, that would make sense. But abandon self to fit in, to attach in that system that wasn't maybe a secure space to attach to, then that makes sense of how you're going to, and to think about it, you know, a lot of individuals have an insecure system.
Yeah.
So again, lead with compassion, like lead with curiosity and compassion of not judgment of, I'm just going to be curious why you turn away. Or I look at you now, I'm like, wow, lots have come up with me. So I'm going to lead with the curiosity of like, okay, well, we can do this. We can stay in this space. What is I love Stephen Porges' definition of trauma. Trauma is a chronic disruption of connectedness.
Oh,
beautiful. What a beautiful way to describe trauma.
Yeah.
It's just a chronic disruptive connected. So we're just constantly disconnected.
I know.
And so if I can feel that in my body and recognize, oh yeah, I feel disconnected from just you, life, self.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my invite back.
Yes. Yes.
Welcome to the Relationship Psychologist podcast, a place where we dive deep into all things relationships. I'm Dana Mullen.
And I'm Alicia Hinger, and we are soul sisters, besties, and psychologists. We're on a mission to change the culture of relationships.
Each week, we will discuss our expertise in the field of psychology, interview experts, spiritual leaders, and real people. Our goal in every episode is to give our listeners tools to implement in their lives today.
This podcast is not therapy, nor should it be a substitute for therapy, but instead we're here to motivate, support, and guide your conscious journey in this life.
The best way to support our podcast is to subscribe and give it a 5-star review.
Thanks so much for joining. Let's dive in.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to our podcast, Alicia.
Right? Welcome to my living room.
Yes. It's always it's a great adventure here, really. I feel like I don't know if I said this on our last podcast. I don't think I did, but it's like the great adventure here.
It is.
Like there's animals everywhere. There's like 4, I don't know how many dogs, 2 dogs,
4 cats, some chickens, some horses. But like when you pull up.
And a duck. And the best is that there's a duck that like comes up. So the last time I pulled up here, there was the 2 big dogs that ran towards me, and then 2 cats ran towards me, and then this duck came from the pond, waddling, and I was like,
pigeon toed.
What is that movie? It's called the
Great Adventure.
No, it's something like that.
Yes.
The Incredible Journey.
Incredible Journey.
For anybody out there, The Incredible Journey. Alicia's farm acreage is kind of that. So it's quite magical.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It feels good. It's regulating.
Oh.
Don't you find that? You came from a stressful environment from the hospital, literally, to come here, and you're greeted by all these like happy animals. I mean, Sadie just wants treats, really.
Yeah.
But actually, I pet her today. Did I say that? I get to pet her now.
And who's Sadie?
Sadie's the duck. Sadie's my duck.
Yes.
And it's taken a while for me to get to pet her because she came from she's wild. She could fly away. She does not to. Aww. But yeah, I can pet her now when I feed her. I feed her and she can pet her. And she kind of snuggles in.
It's so interesting that you start with that, because really our topic today, our podcast is about co-regulation. And it's something that I feel like we want to jump into so much. But as we really thought about it, we were like, we actually have to back up for a few minutes and really understand that co-regulation starts like at birth, basically.
Yeah. Or maybe even before.
Oh, it does start before, actually. We're not going to get too much into that, but yeah, in utero, if your parent is very stressed and going through something, when we say trauma, anything that is interpreted as stressful energy they can't, big energy that they can't cope with, they don't have support, cortisol is going to be released, and that's going to create a bit of dysregulation for the baby. So you're right, it can start even before birth.
Let me just say, this is a huge topic. We're going to give you the tidbits. We're probably going to mess things up because we are not Stephen Porges or any experts in the polyvagal theory or in co-regulation. We do co-regulation in our office, which we're good at. And we teach couples how to do it with each other. But the theory and all intricacies of the nervous system is a massive topic. So we wanted to kind of touch on the topics, I think, touch on the science of it a little bit, and then move into what we do in our office. We do with couples in our office, and even gives people some, interventions with their partnerships, with their kids, with each other, with self.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a massive topic.
It is.
I just want to say that 1,000 times. It's so intricate. The nervous system is it's our life. Like really, we talk about like person first. Yeah. It's nervous system first.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And then even just backing up to what you were saying, how relaxed I felt when I came in here coming from the hospital, these animals, they help us co-regulate also. I mean, animals' energy, usually, sometimes they can be anxious. Some dogs or cats can be, but generally speaking, they are a calming nature for us. So
they kind of trigger that system of like, pet you and it feels nice. And even if they're anxiously, my one dog, lick your feet or you're like, it's cute. And he's, he's creating chemicals in our body that feel safe. Secure.
Yes. Yeah. Because for the most part, animals are safe. That also depends on our stories, which is part of what we're going to get into today of your database of where you come from. So do you come from a history where there's a database of animals are safe?
Right.
And I love animals and or did you come from a database where I've had a client recently from Nigeria who said, dogs are terrifying to me because in Nigeria, they're just animals for protection. So they're raised only as guard dogs. Nobody has them as animals. So when you meet somebody from Nigeria, they will often be scared of your animals.
Interesting.
For good reason, because of their histories, their database of stories.
I'm just thinking my database, my story of animals, actually, like I didn't have a database of dogs ever. I was raised with no animals. I begged for a rabbit, but I was like 16 when I got that rabbit because I worked at them all. But my whole history of animals was that they're dirty, they're hairy, they cause allergies, they make a mess in your house. And I think I had an early experience, either I or my mom was bit by a dog. I remember the story, but again, this is my like 4-year-old memory of in the red wagon, the dog with the blankets. I think she was more scared than I was, but it was in my system so I remember teaching a class one time. This is like a long time. I was teaching university, teaching master's level group therapy is what I was teaching. And so we were talking, and someone brought the case up about their dog and how they were so connected to their dog. And I remember saying to them, I've never had that experience. Like I don't really get the whole animal connection. And here I am, fast forward, however many years ago that was. Yeah. And I 100% get that connection, but I had to build into it, through getting an animal for my kids. I bought my first cats was for the kids. I want my kids something to take care of, something to regulate, something to soothe, a fun experience.
It's interesting that it's through these experiences that we start to uncover a bit more of like, oh my gosh, where does that come from? Like just some curiosity. Yeah. What is my story around animals? What is my story around anger? What is my story around yelling? Like whatever it is that
and loud noises.
Yeah. And really it's I feel like as we kind of started to dive into how we wanted to talk about this today, and we're starting right from the beginning, and it makes me think back too. We're starting back at birth. I mean, when you were born, when a baby is born, they do not have the ability to regulate themselves. Yeah. They come out and they're typically crying. Yeah. If they're not, they make them cry.
To expel the stuff out of their lungs.
Yeah. And then they typically, hopefully, ideally, give the baby immediately to the mom, put the baby on mom's bare chest, and that baby starts to feel the skin, the heat of the skin. Oh, yes.
It's an imprinted moment. I'll never forget their faces. Yeah. And the difference between my son and daughter. I remember my son, both cesarean, my son's was traumatic. Yeah. And they put him on my chest, and I looked at him and he instantly stopped crying in this little face. And I was like, it was an instant. Oh, I was, co-regulation from seeing his little face. And I'll never forget those moments.
And that, you don't know that feeling until you go through it. And we always tell people that you don't know what it's like to have a child until you do, but there's where you feel co-regulation the first time, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, I can feel your little heartbeat and you can feel mine.
As I breathe and look at you and soothe my face, I saw him soften.
Right.
Wow.
It's brilliant. But what's really, really important to know about co-regulation also is that one person has to be in that safe social state. And when we say that, that means I feel calm. I might feel a little bit of sympathetic expression of nervousness or excitement, but ultimately I feel calm and connected and curious and loving. And I'm open to you. I'm not pushing you to regulate. So I'm not being like, baby, stop crying, even though you want to sometimes. Right. Instead, you're like, it's okay. I've got you. Yes. You're safe. Yeah. Mommy sees you.
Trying to stay in that upward.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. So Stephen Porges, who is the founder of the polyvagal theory. If you don't know his work, I highly recommend his work. Again, we're no experts in Stephen Porges' work. We're going to give you the tidbits of it because it's complex. If I look up his information, or Deb Dana, who's one of his colleagues, who's the therapist that actually employs his work in the therapy office, both amazing people. But Stephen Porges actually started out his work learning from infants, like infant behaviors. And so that's how he kind of began this idea of do infants assess the environment for safety or for threat? And how do they regulate? How are they being regulated by their environment? You know, one of the important things I think that came out of that work, as I understand it, was that babies, and I think adults do this too, will, when you're dysregulated, so let's say you have you're sad or you have a need for whatever, food, comfort, whatever it is, and the environment can't regulate you, you will choose attachment. You will choose connection at the expense of self.
Mm-hmm.
So you choose attachment over authentic self, over self. So my need for this actually less important than my need to attach to you. So I will self-abandon.
Yes.
When I read that, I just thought, oh, that speaks language of so many relationships. Like just pause and think about in your life when you've self-abandoned to any level to fit in, right? For something else, for somebody else in a relationship, at work, in a team, in the classroom. Oh my gosh, how many kids right now are going back to school and self-abandoning to fit in an environment?
Yeah, to attach, right? That sense of belonging, that attachment of, even if it's not safe and secure, it's better than nothing. It's better than being alone. And like, right as you said that, I feel like whether it's my memory or a client's memory, because sometimes I don't even know, but like, like a little 3-year-old or a little child whose parent is upset, or maybe both parents are fighting,
right?
And goes, okay, not that they're aware of this, but in that moment, right?
In your body.
I'm feeling unsafe right now. And I need my parent to see me, or I need them to understand me, or I need to know, but I need to attach to them first. So instead, I'm not going to have my need. I'm going to freeze that, numb that.
Yeah.
And instead I'm going to go towards my parent and I'm going to say, maybe I'm going to try and co-regulate them, not even knowing, right, that's what they're doing, but doing like, it's okay, mommy. It's okay. I'll do this, mommy.
Or look over here, distract with humor or whatever.
Yeah. Or I'll be bad and I'll break something over here. So you focus on that, because that attachment is more important than that sense of self, of that authentic self expression.
And then think about, just if you're listening, think about your life or people that you know their life. Then the rest of the struggle is to find your way back. It's like really self-development, just to find your way back to self. Wow.
And this is, I know, wow. This is why co-regulation is a big one, right? Because it's like, and I know in one podcast episode, I spoke of this example, but I'm going to speak of it even just briefly again. When you see somebody who's dysregulated, when I saw the little boy on the street, when he opened the car door and he got scared of my dog, and my dog's not scary. She's like 9 pounds. She's a tiny, she's nothing. But I saw on his face fear. And I had to then stay as in my safe and secure kind of place and look at his face and go, he's scared. Person first, nervous system first, says this little boy is scared. I'm not scared. I can try and convince him and say, hey, you don't have to be scared. I got this little puppy here, but his nervous system is scared. And so to co-regulate this little boy, even though that wasn't my job other than to just see into him, was just to look at him in the eyes and be like, it's okay.
And his mom, did the same for his mom.
I did the same thing for mom. I was like, it's okay, mama. I can see you're protecting your boy.
Well done.
Well done. Good job. And then just walked away. I was like, I'm just validating their nervous system expression of this is what's happening to me. Because of my database, because of my stories of whatever that little dog represented, my brain went, what is this? Dogs are scary, whatever it is.
So that just shows your skill set, right? That shows your ability to tune in to what's happening in someone else's face in their nervous system. So nervous system first, and then to pause and put aside your judgment, your perception, your idea, your story in the moment of what shoulda, woulda, coulda, and just attach to the nervous system in real time.
And we've said this before, take away the content. Okay. Content is not first, person is first. So their nervous system is important. Their story of why they're upset about that. If they were my partner, if they were my husband, if they were my kid, that's really important for me to know the story because I need to understand them. But a stranger, all I needed to see was I could see on their face and their body energy, their nervous system.
Partner, it's important second.
Oh, yes. Right? But what I was going to refer to is that if you want to do deeper work and co-regulate with your partner, you want to know their stories. Okay. So let's just go back to Stephen Porges for a second, talk about this idea that it's in your body, right? So we're talking about nervous system, it's in your body. And this word called neuroception.
So neuroception essentially is perception, the neuroception of taking in information through, through three ways, really. So taking information in your body first. So what's happening internally? It's like this internal kind of like scan of your body. What's happening in my body right now? Heart rate, breathing, blood pressure. Again, your body's doing this without permission. It's scanning right now in your body what's happening in your nervous system.
Yeah, it's automatic.
It's automatic in real time. And then what's happening outside. So what's happening in the outside environment. Like what's happening out there? What are their faces doing? What am I sensing? What are the noises I'm hearing? What's happening outside in my environment? And then what's happening between us. So what's happening between, so our nervous systems right now are having a dialogue.
Yeah.
Our voices are talking, but our nervous systems are actually right now assessing threat in microseconds.
Yeah.
Right. It's a continuous assessment of outside, between us, and internal.
Yeah.
All the time. So so that little boy's face you saw, his body did that in those microseconds.
Yes.
You were able to cue into that and then respond accordingly in pretty damn fast time.
Yeah.
Which is skill.
Yes.
So I think, even if this is not, if you look back and you go, holy cow, which we'll get into in a second here, I didn't learn that as a kid.
Yeah.
You can learn it as an adult.
Oh yeah.
That's the great thing with what we're doing is you can learn this stuff as an adult, and you can learn that, okay, my neuroception has a fight response that's pretty quick, or has a freeze, like we'll get into that, has a response that's this, but I can like work it out a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know the correct term, if it's like vagal tone or whatever you want to call it, but work out that system to be in that space where I can be more expansive. I can be, you used a really good word earlier. It was the word you used earlier. Like to adjust faster.
Yeah.
That's the word you use. I'll think of it, but it was a good word you used earlier.
Well, and to know that, like we've talked about the brain being plastic, the nervous system is the same way. So this is, and this neuroception, the brain's way of perceiving the information ends up being based on this database of all of this information, right? Which is your brain's way of accurately coding an experience. Like it's there, it's the brain's way, it's accurate to you, but it doesn't mean that it's accurate to somebody else. So we could even go through the same experience, you and I, if we were sisters and we had a situation with a parent in front of us, our neuroperception of that tracking that experience could be very different.
Happens all the time. Think of situations where we're with somebody else and someone gives you a look. Happened to me yesterday. And someone gave us a look. And the person I was with thought it was a threatening look, was like, ugh. And I thought it was like a look of like curiosity. Yeah. Right. So, because our body perception of what was happening, to me, it was not threatening at all. And the person I was with felt super threatened by it. Neuroception. Yes. Right. And so I go, well, that's wrong. Yeah. Or maybe, right. Instead of being like curious, well, what causes your body, your neuroception to have that feedback, to have that sensual experience, quickly to assess that and then to give you the feedback that that's a threat system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just want to say one piece of that, Alicia, that I think is important is that we focus so much on the behavior, like in classrooms, right? They'll be like, that kid is behaving badly. We need to get control of that kid's behavior. Or my partner has anger management problems. They're flying off the handle all the time. They're yelling these days. Yeah, oh yeah, he's a narcissist and my kid has ODD and not to discount, we're not here to discount that those aren't real situations and diagnoses, but all of those diagnoses are based on this database. Yeah. All of it is based on this database. Yeah. And so understand more the state rather than the behavior. So what's really going on in the nervous system?
Exactly. I was going to say, so behind behavior is biology. Yeah. Just keep reminding you that behind that behavior is some kind of biology. If I can understand the biology, I can understand the behavior deeper. Yeah. Or I can look beyond the behavior actually. Yeah. And deal with the biology. Yeah. So in that moment of like someone's in threat, rather than look at the behavior and go, well, that was stupid or that was whatever, judge the behavior and go, oh, and soften or smile. Yeah. Or something to regulate their system.
Yes.
I was going to say a question. Yeah. This is a harsh question. So as a parent, thinking about babies. So as a parent, do you think it's your responsibility to regulate that child? Is it a parent's responsibility to regulate a dysregulated child? Harsh question. Mm-hmm. I think yes. And I might get some feedback for that. But I think as a parent, because if not, who? Yeah. If it's not the parent's job or caregiver, whatever, whoever's taking care of that child, right? Is it the adult's job to regulate a distressed child? Yeah. I think yes. Otherwise, if not who, the child can't do it by themselves. No. They're going to try. And they're going to do some self-soothing, like trying to always be healthy, or another child's going to do it again. If not, then who?
Yeah. And then the problem is, Alicia, is that there are so many people who didn't get this.
Yeah.
Right. So many parents, like, I think I'm like, oh, this is like such important work for new moms and dads.
Yeah.
But to go back and go, you know what? I wasn't, not me, but like a person might say, I wasn't regulated as a kid. And so you're speaking a language, and you and I have both had clients in our office who have said, I don't know. It's like you're speaking a different language. Like, this sounds great. Like, whoa, does that ever sound beautiful? I'd love to have a dose of that, but I don't know what that feels like.
Right.
And so I know, like, in terms of couples work that we do, you and I will look for the most securely attached person to start with, right? We're like, who's the most motivated? Who has the most resources of history of database of, hey, I was kind of loved. My parent did this. Perfect. Now you're going to do that for your partner right now, because we're going to have basically a corrective emotional experience in the moment, because that's what, for us, really, because we do couples work, that's where trauma work is for us. Yeah. We want to help the couple repair together. A person hurts you and a person repairs you if they can be in that safe and secure state to say, I've got you.
Yeah.
And I can be present with you.
Yeah. And having those clients that ask us, oh, how did you notice that? Like, what we do in our office, we're constantly tracking people's body language. Yeah. And people will say often, I don't know if you get this, but people say, I feel like you're reading my mind. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm reading your body. I'm reading, and I'm present in my nervous system to feel it, because it's a social engagement system. It's a reactive. So as someone's having a reaction, my body's going to feel it. My animals are going to feel it in the office. So for me, it feels second nature. Mm-hmm. But people often are like, how did you do that? Yes. How did you notice her face? Or how did you see that thing? And how did you, I'm like, how do you not?
Yeah,
say that to them.
No, but
I'm like, let me teach you.
Yeah. And we understand that. Backing up for a second, to the polyvagal theory, that vagus nerve is the longest nerve in our autonomic nervous system that connects to every single organ, which also means that our body and our brain hold memories, because this nerve is the highway of information. So basically, the body is giving 80% of the information to the brain. Bottom up. And then 20% is coming from the brain down. Yeah. So if you think about that, you can think of like I feel like so much of psychotherapy even and medicine, so much of it has been backwards. Yeah.
Let's just minimize the symptoms. Let's just minimize the feedback that's coming down, or let's increase the feedback coming down and minimize the symptoms, rather than pause and go, what's coming out? Like, what's actually happening here? Let me teach you about that, show you that in real time, and teach you or your partner how to do that dance.
And how to just validate that with each other and be in that experience together. I mean, when there's a physical response, 80% is coming from that body. Yeah. If we could just soothe with the body, imagine the world. Like, if we can lead with that. And I know, and you can explain it kind of your way too. I feel like there's two different ways to understand kind of that vagus nerve, right? Of like the ladder approach, or Stephen is more of the
like an inverted triangle kind of. Yeah. Because he says, so Deb Dana's is the ladder. And so it's if you just Google Deb Dana's work. Yeah. She's, again, the therapist that put Stephen Porges' work into the therapy office. She's brilliant. And she's drawn out a ladder, which is really great. It's a really great visual. And so it's the exact same thing. Stephen just kind of describes it as an inverted triangle, because the higher you are at the top of the ladder, the more resourceful you are, the more resources you have. Yeah. So the top is that ventral vagal. Yes. So and that's is you're wide, right? You have so many, your ventral vagal, you're social, you're resourced, you're flexible,
you're safe and social. Yes. Like, if you can just think of that, safe and social. Top of the ladder, top of the inverted triangle. Yeah. Is safe and social.
Yeah. And then as you go down the ladder, it gets a little bit narrower in the middle. So now you're in that sympathetic. So parasympathetic on the top. People know that rest and digest, safe and social, right? And in the middle is sympathetic. Sympathetic is like, I'm getting mobilized. And again, it's a spectrum. It's like a ladder of the rings going down, mobilized for fight or flight. I'm assessing threat. My amygdala is online. I'm starting to feel my chemicals are online. I'm starting to get less, more dopamine, or less dopamine, more norepinephrine, more adrenaline in my system. Yeah. And so I'm getting ready to do I got to fight or flight? And get ready to do something.
Yeah. And sometimes that can also be an okay situation in terms of if you're somebody who's a bit of a adrenaline seeker, you might do bungee jumping, or you might roller coasters. You might go down into that ladder of that part too, of this is a little bit scary, but it's not dangerous. Yes. It's a little bit scary, or it could be fight or flight, but it doesn't have to be full on yet.
Yeah.
It's a
sports.
A range. Yes.
Right. We need a little bit of
Another good one.
sympathetic for sports. You can't be parasympathetic wrestling and then get on the rink to play hockey.
Yeah.
Or the basketball court to play basketball.
Exactly.
Right. For sports to be optimal, you need a little bit of sympathetic.
Yeah.
So we're not saying these are good or bad.
Yeah.
So like social engagement isn't just always the best to be there.
Yeah.
Right. We want to be in that spectrum. We want to be flexible. Actually, we want to be flexible.
Yes.
I think that's the kind of the tone we're talking about, is like having the ability to know when you're up and down that ladder, and to be able to be flexible, to engage yourself, to be in charge of the system.
Yeah.
Know how to kind of like hijack it in a loving way, compassionate way, to bring yourself to the state you need to be in for the situation that you're in. So I'm going to go on the ice, or I need to do my sport. I need to engage my sympathetic so I need to start moving my body, getting some of the adrenaline, and moving in good ways. Or
in terms of in a relationship, it might be something happens, your kid falls, or your partner does something. You might be like, oh my gosh, did something. Oh, but it's okay. Oh, that's not really dangerous. Okay. No, I can come back to safe and social and be like, okay, now I'm going to be able to move towards you. Yeah. But then there's the bottom of the ladder or the bottom of the triangle. Yeah.
Dorsal vagal. So dorsal is collapse, freeze, where it's where you actually, so sympathetic is like dropped and you're down to this dorsal tone where you literally have no energy left. Yeah. I think of it like the possum. Right. They're just like the possum's animal, just like, okay, I guess I'm going to die. Yeah. Or the deer that's gotten caught by the lion. Yeah. And it's just like, it literally, and there's some dorsal immobility, again, in that spectrum. I read an interesting article a while ago about the dorsal vagal during childbirth. And so we actually employ a bit of dorsal tone during childbirth because we're immobilized, but we're not fearful. Yeah. And so it takes away the fear and immobilizes us. We're not panicking. We're in oxytocin. We're in the chemicals. So this, again, it's not always bad. Yes. So some of that dorsal vagal is great when you're in an intense, painful, I don't know about you, but it was the most painful I've ever felt in my entire life.
Well, mine was great.
Mine was terrible.
I'm just kidding.
Jesus. Mine was painful as hell.
C-section was a lot easier in a lot of ways, but
for sure.
Well, okay, I should say that not everybody's experience. I'm kind of joking a little bit, but even if you don't remember like these terms so much, it's really, can you focus on what's in front of you? Can you look at your person? Can you look at your child or your partner and go, oh, I can see like there's really big eyes. There's like a freeze response. They don't look happy right now. Yeah. Are you scared? Like instead of using a question, you can just state what you notice. If you can be in safe and social, like if you can kind of stay there, then and that's heart, right? Our face. I love this. Our face is the polygraph to our heart. Yes. Right. It's showing, am I in safe and social or am I not? Are my eyes getting big? Am I starting to get like tight? Yeah. Right. You know, like that's, So if you can keep your face relaxed, I remember reading somewhere that they said there's 80 muscles in your face. Maybe there's 60 or 80, and they send the signals to your brain. Right. Like, so they're so fast, right? They're like so fast. But then if you can soften and just notice in your partner, like, oh, I notice sadness. I notice some stress in your face. I see your hands are clenching. I can see that. That is attunement. Yeah. That's starting the process of co-regulation of just, I might not know in the brain what's happening. Yeah. I might know a bit of your story to be like, oh, I know you get scared around cats. So I can see that already happening. But even if I don't know your story, if I'm watching you, I'll be able to notice. Yeah, it's brilliant. And then the eyes are nervous system. So your face is a polygraph for your heart, what's happening. Your eyes are even more intense for your nervous system. So, if it's your person, again, or your child, we're looking into their eyes. Yeah. I'm watching, your pupils get big or small. I'm watching your dad's pupils go into space and like leave space. And we fall in love in the eyes. We fall in love in the eyes. I love doing that with couples, being like, when we get them eye to eye and then they're like, we never do this. Oh, yeah. And you're like, oh, when did you fall in love? Looking away, just breaking contact. And then once they kind of hang out there for a long time and they realize it's actually regulating. Yeah. With a safe person. If the eyes aren't threatening, oh my gosh. Yeah. Or, it also just brings up stuff, right? Like suddenly you're like, oh, we have a lot we haven't dealt with. Right. It's like, oh, you're a stranger. Yes. Like, oh, there's all this stuff coming up for me that I didn't realize because we try and control so much too with our face, right? We've talked about fine before saying that. Yeah. But a lot of people will, to avoid co-regulating or avoid having to deal with things, they'll just look away, right? It's like, I'll just look away. And if you can't look at me, then you can't find me. Right. But it's like, we find each other in the eyes. But if we have a history of abandoning self, that would make sense. If I abandon self to fit in, to attach in that system that wasn't maybe a secure space to attach to, then that makes sense of why you're going to, and to think about it, a lot of individuals have an insecure system. Yeah. So again, lead with compassion, like lead with curiosity and compassion
of not judgment of, I'm just going to be curious why you turn away. Or I look at you now, I'm like, wow, that's come up with me. So I'm going to leave with the curiosity of like, okay, well, we can do this. We can stay in this space. Like, what is I love Stephen Porges' definition of trauma. Trauma is a chronic disruption of connectedness.
Ugh.
Beautiful.
I know.
What a beautiful way to describe trauma.
Yeah.
It's just a chronic disruptive connected. So we're just constantly disconnected.
I know.
And so if I can feel that in my body and recognize, oh yeah, I feel disconnected from just life, self.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my invite back.
Yes. Yes. I think that's it's a good kind of take home thing too, of like just a little bit of an inventory to do. Like, where are you disconnecting in your life? Like, what are you noticing? Is it people? Is it situations? Like, what is it? Like, where are you disconnecting from in life? Because, you know, you and I aren't big labels people, but, you know, trauma is it's not what happened. It's your perception. It's your experience of how that happened. And did I have anybody with me to help me move through that in a safe and social way? Or was I alone and did I have to deal with it myself? And now it's kind of locked in there.
Yeah.
But really just take an inventory, like, where am I avoiding right now? Where am I feeling disconnected in my life?
Yeah. And
where is it?
Like what you just said, if I go through my history, my stories, where did I have big emotional experiences, big energetic experiences that weren't processed or weren't, you know, just weren't able to be let out, flow through, where they were stuck in my system. Like, just go back and be like, in my history, where did I have big energetic experiences? Yeah. And they feel locked in my system still. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's your database, right? Those are your narratives that create your neuroception of experiences in life. So do an inventory and check back and think, you know, going from birth until whatever age you are now, what are experiences where I feel like maybe I haven't talked about them, or they're just really stressful to think about. Maybe I've done a lot of work around them, but it's still an important one to remember. This is why I feel like this, or this is why this has happened in my life.
Yeah. Kind of goes to what we do in our office, right? Like, a lot of times in our office, people come in with whatever their stuff is. We're dealing with couples most of the time. And so we spend a lot of time assessing their stories, like understanding their experiences, their energies. And so we do these things like attachment questionnaires that we do to find out all of the stories that can play then into their regulation, their lack of regulation, their lock and load, whatever parts are up in the office. We have, for us to do the work, it's like coming in and saying, like you said, I have a stomach ache. Well, instead of just giving you the medicine, I need to understand where that's coming from. We can't communicate, or we have this thing. Okay, but let me go back and understand where that's coming from. Not just communication, but your lack of listening. Your lack of curiosity, whatever it is. You have to assess and ask those questions. So I think giving our audience we're working on one. We're creating actually an inventory. We're creating like a couples inventory, you and I together. So we're going to have that out soon. So if you're interested in that, actually send us a DM. We need your email so we can send you the email version of when it's done. It's work in progress right now. But I think even just right now, for couples that are listening, people that are listening, to do an inventory of, where do I feel like I still have stuck? Because that's Bessel van der Kolk's work. At the Boston Trauma Center. Like, our body keeps the score. So we have stuck energies in our system. Right. And so knowing that history. And if you don't know the story, like, because some people are very, like, they have these memories, right? Really clear memories. But a lot of people will say, no, I don't have any memories. No, my childhood was great. Everything was really fun. It was fine. It was fine. Fine. It was good. It was normal. Right. It was like average. But so then if that's the case, then just notice, take an inventory of when you feel dysregulation in your body. So like, where do you feel it? Well, I feel my stomach is always churning. Okay. Well, that's information. So your body carries state of dysregulation. You can say that too.
Exactly. And so how long have you had that stomach ache for? Well, since I was 5.
30 years.
Okay. Well, let's keep going back then. Keep feeling that and keep, like, just even focusing on the body and go again, 80% is coming from your body to your brain. So if you just close your eyes, you don't have to close your eyes if you don't want, but just focus on that feeling, you'll start to get something that'll come up. And if you don't want to do the story, like I'm not a big fan of having to know every detail in the story. I don't think it's that important. Me too.
But to be like, oh yeah, I'm having this stomach ache. Okay, so let's just, like, we do this, like, put your hands there, give it the Care Bear stare, or whatever visual, like, into that spot. And then there's you guys know these techniques. We hear these things all the time, like, breathe into that spot. Like, slow down it, give it some love. Maybe hum, like, just what does it feel like to hum into that spot? What does it feel like to stretch, to move? What does it feel like to tell yourself, like, how much you appreciate it. Send some gratitude. Like, there's 1,000 toolbox techniques to help open up these areas to our body to give it some
And it
regulation.
all starts with acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Like you can't change what you don't acknowledge. So
Yeah.
I mean, you can't say hello to somebody you don't acknowledge, right? Hi, nice to meet you.
Right.
You can do the same thing with your stomach. Oh, hello there. You're in pain. Hi. Nice to meet you, pain in my stomach.
Right.
So yeah, just start to build a relationship by just acknowledging these pieces. Because it's such an important part of the co-regulation process, right? Of being aware of our own stuff. So where am I on the ladder? Am I in safe and social? Do I feel really good? Do I feel like, I can think and I can feel at the same time? Or am I starting to feel, no, I kind of live in fight or flight. Like I'm always kind of in this,
right.
That's important information. Or I always feel like I'm in freeze. Like I always feel like I can't do anything. I'm just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So just start to notice that, because we in co-regulation, we need one person who is in the safe and social.
Yeah.
You don't have to have two. Obviously, that's the goal at the end, is to bring them up the ladder. But to begin with, we just need one person. Yeah. And we'll say lead with relief, right? One person has to lead with relief.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to the question I said about parenting. Like, is it the parent's job to regulate the child? Is it the partner's job, which I know again sounds harsh, to regulate the partner? And even if it's not their job, doesn't it benefit the relationship that we're in? So if I can regulate you and I can stay in safe, secure, and think that you're whatever, your stuff is your stuff, and maybe I don't agree with it, but I can be like, but it's in benefit of the boat that I live in with you, the house I live in with you, for me to stay in social brain and do some things to soften you, or to smile, or to get you in a socially engaged system again, so that you can make better decisions. Like it benefits the system. Yeah. So it makes no sense to go, ugh, and then, you do you, which is kind of that, I feel like the Western world is kind of lost. We kind of have the self-psychology of like, you do you and I'll do me, and we'll just kind of cohabitate together. Yeah. I feel like that's so backwards. Oh, it kind of is.
It goes way back, right? I mean, when people say it takes a village to raise a child, we don't follow that anymore. We follow the, you should be able to do it. You're a mom, you're a grown lady. You should be able to take care of your kids, so your husband or whoever can go and work and or take care of yourself. Yeah. Or whichever way.
I run a company. Yeah. You should do all the things. And so people, maybe that's why people are exhausted and they're, too many rules for each individual person. Yeah. But maybe go back to the idea of a village. So what am I doing to regulate my system? We did that in our other podcast, like self-regulation. Right? Yeah. And then it's in benefit of the system. If I can stay in social brain and I'm in social brain, you're not, to soothe you. Yeah. Because why wouldn't I?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back to secure attachment, right? I mean, to co-regulate another person is to create a secure attachment. Yeah. It's, I see you, I hear you, I understand you. I'm a safe place to land. Yeah. I mean, that is what all of our nervous systems need. We all need that. Yeah. There's no one that does not need that.
No, we all need it for sure. And when I'm doing that with you, I'm creating neural pathways. Yes. I'm actually in real time creating mirror neurons, creating neural pathways. It's a neural, it's a neural network game or neural network. Yeah. It's a plasticity growth system. Like we're doing it in real time. So as I'm doing that with you, I'm actually growing your brain in real time. Again, benefiting the system.
Yeah. And if we can, we could literally change the world if, and I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal because I don't respond always great either. But in that situation of the neighbor, who's dysregulated, if we could respond to people like that, the person who cuts you off, who's fingering you, if you're like, they have a dysregulated nervous system. They're in fight mode. They must have a neuroception that when people cut them off, threatening, that they are also dismissing them and they don't think that they're important. Right. And that's everything that's going on. Yeah. We're all too fast. Our systems are responding too fast, going, what the hell's wrong with you? And it's like so fast. But the more that we are aware of our own energy, and arousal, the more that we can help change another person's and bring them back up the ladder. Yeah.
And if you know how to do this well, I'm going to go back. I think it's on you to do it, to carry that forward. Yeah. And again, doesn't mean you learned it well as a kid. Doesn't mean you learned it well in your family of origin, and maybe you didn't. And that's okay. Yeah. So as you learn it now, it benefits your relationships, it benefits your nervous system, it benefits your health, it benefits your community. Like you just think it's like, you have the cure to cancer, which came into yourself. Why wouldn't you want to share that with your environment? Yeah. It's just useful for, like you said, it would change the world.
Oh, it would
change the world.
It would. Yeah. And I feel like it would be good to have maybe a little bit of an example of how we've co-regulated somebody else before.
like in our office. Well, I have an example of this is traumatic, but I have an example. I was driving one time on the highway, and I was young. This is a long time ago, and I actually feel like really peaceful about it because the person that came in, the paramedic, it was an accident, it was a head-on collision with a semi in a truck, and so I was second on scene. There's another car that was in front of me. And we kind of pulled over at the same time. It was really icy, and I got out, and I could see the one guy was clearly dead. And there's a guy here and another guy over there that all came out of the truck. And so the other family ran to that guy, I ran to this guy, and he was kind of, in my mind, I was like, he's probably not going to live. So I just thought, and I felt on my like anxiety and all my like, gore, like there's blood and there's all this stuff, right?
Lots of sympathetic stuff going on. Like quick.
But I felt this, like I looked in his eyes and I saw him look at me. So I grabbed his head and was just like, hi, I'm here with you now. You're in a field and you're okay because I'm here with you. And he couldn't talk because he was just gurgling. So I knew he probably wasn't going to last for long, but I just kind of was, it was such a fast thing. And I could hear the ambulance coming, so I knew they were close. And I was just like, I'm just going to hold your neck, because I think it's probably broken because it was kind of crooked. I'm just going to hold your head here. And I'm just going to, and I kept like, as massaging his cheeks, I'm just going to hold you and let you know, my name is Alicia and it's kind of cold outside. And can you see the stars? I just was like talking about I was using I'm probably talking just random stuff, but I was trying to stay in a voice that was really soothing and kind of like loving and caring.
And your face, in case people aren't watching this, like your face is softening, your eyes are softening, your tone is softening. You're speaking almost musically like, hi, it's okay. I'm Alicia, and all of those kinds of things are co-regulating. You're saying, I'm all safe and social and I'm safe really. Because the brain is always scanning for threat. Right. And so you're coming in the energy of safe and secure.
Yeah.
And so he's feeling that.
He did. And so the paramedics got there, and the other lady was over there screaming with the other guy. She was like, oh my God, yelling. So I was just ignoring her, dealing with this guy. And paramedics in there, and they were like, you out. Like they kicked her out. They're like, you out, you stay to me. And I was like, okay. So I just sat there and was like, okay, stay. Cause he was like, you got this. Like you're in it, stay, you do it, whatever. And he ended up passing away, like kind of like in my arms basically. But it felt, it was super sad. It was awful, but it kind of felt like a privilege to be able to be with him in that last minute. I don't know what the story was. I don't know what happened. It was just an accident, right? But to be in that moment with him, to be like, oh, I was able to not that I'm good at this. Like I'm not a master self-regulator or a master co-regulator. I just think it's in us. Like it's in our biology. If we do the work to get to the place of like, it's not about the story, but we're humans and we're connected and I got you. Like I have your back.
Yeah. And I think just to clarify too, Alicia, I think you had done enough work to understand who you were, and you were resourced enough in life of like, and also like, I've got supports. It's not got, because some people don't, some people are all alone in the world and they're like, I could never do that. I would just freeze. But you were resourced enough and you did do like lots of this work. And that example is actually one that I will often, in a different way, but it's actually the same kind of example I'll use with my couples.
Right.
I'll say, like if you see somebody who's been hit by a car and they're laying on the side of the road and their eyes are open, so they're clearly awake and they're conscious, what do you do? And everybody gives a different example. And I've probably only had 2 people, maybe 3 in 16 years say, first off, I would look them in the eyes. Most people will jump with
assess for damage.
I would check their vitals. Like some of them, I'll check their vitals. I'll make sure that they're whatever. Like it's all, I can't even think of what the things are, because it's like, no, you look them in the eyes. Your windows, their eyes are your windows to your nervous system.
So forget that, guys.
This is, this is how you co-regulate somebody, is in the eyes. If you're not looking in the eyes, you can't co-regulate anybody. If you're looking down, you can't. It's not possible. So you look them in the eyes and you're soft and you validate them. And maybe I know you validated by saying you're in a field. But I'm here. So you're reassuring, I'm here and I've got you. And
I'll stay with you.
I'm staying with you. So you created safety and security in that moment. And that's what they need. They need eye contact. They need validating. They need reassurance.
And I saw his eyes go from like terrified to soft.
That was co-regulating right there. And it's like, and I'll often also tell my couples, I think of regulation as fire. Like I'm like, if you notice your partner in fight or flight, or even in freeze mode, they're on fire. And if they really were on fire, would you be like, I'm going to give them a timeout? Like I would do, like what people do with their kids, right? Oh, they're acting out. Put them in timeout. Perfect. They're going to burn to death. And then what they're going to do is they're going to learn you're not safe because you don't got me. You don't know how to take care of me. So then I learn, I guess I can't rely on you. So I might take care of you, but I will no longer let you take care of me. So this timeout thing, not a fan.
Clearly.
Not a fan of timeout. Time in, love it.
Yes.
Time in all day long. Come on and time in with me.
Yes.
But you are my person. And if you're on fire, and I love you, I want to make sure that I put you out. And by putting you out, I'm going to validate you. I'm going to look at you safely and securely. And I'm going to be like, hey, it's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to be pissed off. It's okay to whatever. I'm here.
You don't take your abuse. You can't have the dog. You can't your sister. It's okay to have big feelings.
It's okay to have huge feelings.
Let's go throw some pillows.
Whether that's your kid or whether that's your husband or your wife, I'm going to validate you and I'm just going to sit there with you. And I'm not going to try and force you to come to my area of the ladder. I'm not going to force you. But I'm going to, you know, in essence, I'm throwing water on you by validating you and reassuring you. And then I'm going to sit there and let you kind of sizzle down a little bit and be like, whenever you're ready, I'm here. And whether that's, you know, I'm just sitting with you, touch sometimes is soothing.
Depends on the person.
Touch sometimes is very activating because 80% of those memories are in the body. So you got to know the database. But just sitting there, lowering your body, maybe sometimes I'll sit on the floor with my youngest. Like that's what I do. I sit on the floor and I'm like, it's okay to be upset. It's okay. I'm here. It's okay. And then eventually she comes to me. And then we'll have a time in together and I'll validate her and reassure her. And then maybe say the thing like, you know, we can't hit your brother. That's not okay. That's mean. That's not nice.
And I think that creates gratitude.
Like
I think when you do that well with somebody, kid, adult, doesn't matter. When you're in space and time with them, it creates a biological gratitude of just like, thank you for not shaming me, blaming me, judging me, whatever. Thank you for just being in my space while I was dysregulated. And give me the space to come back. If you ever done that with a client in my office, or even if I'm like coaching a partner through what to say to their partner, I'm seeing that they're dysregulated. Partner has no clue. They're not picking up on my subtle. And I'm like, hey, grab her hands. If I know that's safe. Or I'm like, hey, soften your voice. Hey, or I'll be like, hey, get on the floor. Sit below them here. And they're like, well, I'm like, sit on the floor beside them. They're like, I'm like, just do it. And they're like, okay. And they'll just do what we say. Every time, whatever and depends on the clients. We obviously do all our history first. We know, which is why it's so important to know our stories. We know what we're doing. And so I remember their stories. I'm like, okay, this is what needs to regulate that person. Do that in real time. Even when I'm coaching the partner through, the partner that's being soothed is like, they soften every time. I know. And they're like, thank you. So and they thank the partner.
I know.
And then the partner's like, I didn't do it. She told me to. And I'm like, but you did it. You did it. And that's going to go into their state system of memory of like, oh, I did that.
Like, that's the cool part about our job is that we get to help people rewire their nervous system and create a new database and update it, right? Like, I like the way that, I don't know if it's Stephen Porges who explains it this way, but, you know, he basically says that this database is this hardware system, right? Like this is how we're hardwired. And then people kind of try and come in with like software programs being like, well, just try some positive thinking. Like try a little bit of breathing. And it's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm not allowed to, I wasn't allowed to breathe or whatever it is. Like, it's like, there's something that we have to understand, but this kind of these ruptures that we have in relationships, we have to be really slow to co-regulate, to come back to be like, I need you to know that whatever you're feeling, I don't have to agree with what you're feeling. I don't have to believe it even. No, I just have to validate it because your nervous system is telling me that that's true. So I'm going to believe your nervous system right now. Because it doesn't lie. No, the stories might be totally false. You're on fire. Do I care why you're on fire? Like, I like that example too. I'm such an analogy girl. Like if there's a fire in your house, what do you do? Like, just answer me. What would you do if there's a fire in your house? Save all my animals and people and get out. Okay. Well, that's one response. That's good. Okay, what do you want me to say? Well, you put it out. Put it out. Okay, like I'm thinking Kelowna fires. Oh, okay, no. Like just a little fire, like you walk in, put it out. You put it out, right? You wouldn't go. No, wait. What happened? What happened? Who did this? How did it? Let's figure out how it started. Let's go to logic first and figure out the problem. What happened? Why did it cause that? And people who are really, really logically based will go to the, how can I fix this? Could I get you something? Why are you so upset? You know, but instead it's like, no, put out the fire. Like, let's validate it. Let's reassure, let's get to safety and security. And then we can talk. Like knowing what works for your person. So when I think about when we ask our clients, like who sued you as a kid, who took care of you when you were sick, who fell off your bike and hurt your skin or knee, whatever, other stories. And I use those. I put those in my memory bank. I put those. And so when they're on fire in the office, I'll say things like, you know, remember the French toast story, whatever, like, remember that thing, chicken soup story. Like, be like, hint, and then like, oh yeah, what did grandma do? What did aunt do? What did mom do? Whoever. And I bring that back into the real time of like, remember that story. And sometimes I love that because I'll do the same thing. And if I don't know what that story is, I'll just look at the opposite partner and say, you know, when in this person's history did they feel like not enough? Like
yeah.
when, who made them feel not enough? Their mom. Okay. Why, what did their mom do?
Yeah.
Would say these things, would look at them with that eye. Oh, I just did the eye. Oh, okay. I'm getting it, you know, and it's like, you are your proxy for everything that came before.
Yeah.
So you as a primary, if you're married or if you're even in a really close friendship, you become the proxy for all of the previous relationships. So it's really understanding that you are actively triggering your partner. A lot of the time, and not all of it's your responsibility in terms of like, I didn't cause it, but it is my responsibility to create you in a safe and secure and seen and understood and
that's what we agreed to do.
Exactly.
We agreed to be in connection with in relationship, which means we agree to be hopefully safe and secure. And so if I know your stories and I know that what's what puts you on fire, that's what causes, you know, there's an ember in there and that's what puts the gas on the ember to, you know, fuel quickly, then I know I'm skillful to put it out. And again, this is a process of learning, right? Which is why I think it's important to, you know, work with us, for example, to go through that stuff, like do a course like this, to like ask those questions, to get curious, to do your attachment histories together. That's what my masterclass is all about, is like learn your attachment histories. Like go back and look at your tree of attachment and go through your roots. What are those roots? What are my triggers? What are the parts that show up that protect me? Like all the information, because it's self-awareness, like I'm teaching, you know, a partner. Vice versa. What are my partner's roots? Like, where do they come from? And so when they're triggered in those ways, I understand that, but I also know the way to soothe them is this. Just like with our kids, just with our kids. Parents are brilliant with that. Because I'll say, well, so you have two kids, and you know, Joey, when he gets dysregulated, what do you do? Oh, he likes this. Oh, when Johnny gets, oh, he likes this. Oh, so you know that with your kids, you instantly parents are like, oh, I know how to take care of my kids in real time, really, because I know they're different. But your partner, pay attention.
Pay attention. Yeah. And I mean, that goes back to that timeout thing again. I just want to say that one more time, because I know I'm really nailing down with that, but it's the same as with, you know, our kids are attached to us, right? They're going to abandon themselves to attach to us. We need to see into them and we need to understand them. And by putting them in a time out and saying, you're going over here because your behavior has been bad, or in schools, they do this too. I mean, it's not just parents I'm saying this for, but could you imagine if your husband came home and you were acting out a little bit, like you were a little frustrated, and he said, could you go to timeout, please, for 20 minutes? You know, or if it's your age, that's a lot of minutes, like for a timeout. But like, could you imagine like how you'd feel? You would not feel safe and secure and seen and understood and attuned to. Well, you would feel punished. Well, not if he said time out. If he said, why don't you go and take some time out with the horses? And different. You'd be like, well, thank you. But if it was a time out, like it's like a punishment. It's like, could you please leave? Could you go? Could you go take care of yourself? A time out is really, could you just regulate yourself and take care of yourself? And that would be very helpful. But they can't. No, they can't. They need you. They can't. Exactly. And I mean, I've used this example, I think a few times, even my 6-year-old, you know, I've, you know, gotten frustrated with her before and been like, oh, and like, I'm sitting on the ground, I'm trying to regulate myself and she's upset. And then I'll look up to her when I'm like, okay, I'm climbing back the ladder. I'm back and safe and social. And she'll look at me and she'll be like, just regulate me. I mean, she uses the words because I mean, we talk about this stuff way a lot. But she's like, I need you to just regulate me. And I'm like, okay, come here. Come and sit on me. Come and I'll hold you. Yes. And so I mean, we can teach our kids and we can teach our neighbors and we can teach our partners, but it starts with you. It starts with you understanding, what are my stories? Like what is happening in my body? How am I self-aware enough of what is happening for me? Because I am an energy. And so is my energy calm and connected and soothing, or is it aggressive? Is it, you know, dysregulating? Is it scary sometimes? Is it tense? Is it shut down and numb? Is it big eyes and monotone voice? I mean, those are threatening things. And that's a default model. I said it's a hardware problem. So it's not it's not pathologize it. It's a hardware issue. And so it's a learned system. It's a learned environmental from pre-birth. Right. So, so just, we can have, again, massive compassion, like, oh, it's a default model. It's what my partner, my friend, my coworker defaults to in times of stress. I'm just paying attention and going, okay, I'm understanding their nervous system, what it does. And so I lean back with compassion and go, so
if I'm in a relationship with you and I can stay in social secure brain and I see you trying to dip into like a bit of sympathetic in an unsafe way, I can try 1,000 different things. Again, there's unlimited toolboxes. You can like Google the tools for this stuff, which I don't need to teach you because they're out there. Be like, what could I do to help? I might hum, I might smile, I might use my face, I might sit on the ground, I might get 1,000 things. I might pass them a cookie or a glass of water. I mean, there's 1,000 things I can do to help regulate someone's system. But again, why wouldn't I?
Yeah. And just to because there is so many different things. Let's just touch on a couple.
Okay.
I know my husband has done this too, where he's just Googled Om on the computer and it's just Om.
Yeah.
And it'll just be on in the background.
Has a different one. There's Om,
that's right.
Ram, yours. Yeah. The girls group this year. So look, and you could like, again, if you love that stuff, you can play the different chakras and the different sounds.
Yeah.
Like the Om is like, forget which one Om is. I should remember that.
I feel like it's heart.
No, I don't think it is.
Oh, it's not? Okay. I don't know. But any soft kind of music that is warm and connecting, any kind of music. It can be really happy music. Yeah. It can be just really calming music.
Again, that you know your partner, right? Yeah. So if my daughter was dysregulated, I put Mamma Mia on because I know that regulate her. Yeah. Right. So no way, my husband would be like, turn this shit off.
Yeah. My mom would be Dancing Queen. Abba, right. That shifts her.
Mamma Mia's Abba.
That is too right. Yeah. See, I like Britney. I'll throw on a little Britney.
A little rap.
A little rap. You probably like some country. Yeah.
Some old school country for sure. My
husband would like something that you'd be playing some spoons with, and like a guitar. Something like that. That's a flashback to your memory of giving me spoons. And I was like, what am I doing with spoons? So you're going to play them. And I was like, oh my gosh. I feel like I'm in like a time warp. Like, where are we? Okay. So there's that. There's, dancing is a way to co-regulate and to shift
your body, actually.
Yes.
Like really, even if you're individually right now and you're like, I'm having dysregulation in a moment in time. Again, what is it? Talk about it being embodied energy.
Yeah.
And it's stuck energy. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Right. Trauma, though, it's disruption of connectedness, which is energy or lack of energy. So it's stuck in my body. So how can I move it out?
Yeah.
So if I just like if I'm in a classroom, I just wiggle my fingers and toes, constant fidgets, squeezing, breathing, stretching, like,
some of that.
Just do that.
That's why Tony Robbins, who we love, gets people jumping up and down.
Right. Yeah.
Because he's moving. And if you move your body, you are more likely, I think his research shows, or what he talked about is like, you're 95% more to remember information if you've integrated it in your body.
Yeah.
So it's like,
his workshop, I was like, I'm not doing that stuff. I'm not dancing. I'm not doing the stuff. That's ridiculous. And halfway through, I'm like, I guess we're dancing. And then we start. It
was so fun.
It was actually really fun.
I know we're going to do that in our couples retreats that we're developing. We're going to we're going to be moving.
I get that weird.
Yeah. That like, cringy, like this is so weird. I feel that too until I'm doing it. And then I'm like, oh, right. Okay. I can be playful. I mean, really, that's it.
Play is huge. I think about my animals because I have animals here, right? So when they're in distress, if I take an animal out to get the farrier or whatever animal comes, for whatever reason, I take an animal out of the pen, like out of the horse out of the pen, out of the herd, and the rest of them are distressed, they come back and they do what? It looks like rough and tumble to me because they're like biting and kicking and nicking, and then they're rolling and they're jumping. It's play. Yeah. It's play. Play's a really natural way to get that stuff out of our system. Mm-hmm. So again, with yourself, with your partners, if you notice that there's a chronic state of, who's not in a chronic state of dysregulation these days?
I know. And even going to, I know sometimes I'll prescribe this for couples. They'll be like, oh, we take our dogs for a walk. And I'll be like, okay, so stop at the park and play.
Go on the swings.
But even go on the slide, like climb up and go down the freaking slide. Like go have a good time. Yeah. And I'm like, do it. Yeah. Do it for like a couple days and then come back and tell me. And if it was really stupid and horrible, then I'll be like, cool, you were right. Yeah. But it's not.
It's not. Or I'm like, play whatever they do. They're like, oh, my kids have Lego. I'm like, get the Lego, play with the kids Lego. They're like, what? So I'll find something, same thing with it. That's already in their environment.
And you're tuning also in those moments when whatever you're, it could even be I'm sure that you did this with your son. I'll do this with my husband sometimes if he's playing a video game, which he doesn't do very often, but I'll be like, oh, I'll play with you. Yeah. Like that can be a form of like, I'm co-regulating with you. I'm getting into your energy space of like, this is soothing for you. And I'll play with you for a little while.
Yeah. Or I'll just watch you play and laugh.
Or I'll just watch. Yeah. But that's still connecting.
It's still connecting. Yeah. So I think play is a really natural, forgotten skill. Yeah. It's a really natural, again, kids do this, animals do this naturally. We don't have to remember or learn it. It's in us to do. It's a forgotten skill set. So it's another great one to and self-prescribe.
It might even be as a kind of a last homework thing of like, sit down and think about what are the things that help me move from a state of like tightness and like, fight mode or numb mode? Like what will move me up to the ladder of like safe and social?
Right.
Like what are some things that I know for me will do that? Is it calling a friend, going out with a friend, dancing? What music? What will it be? And if you're in a relationship, if you're in a marriage, it might be talking to each other. Like, what are some things that we can have on our little list of like, when shit's hitting the fan and we're not doing well, what are some things we can do?
Yeah. So that's a good visual. So here's the ladder. And so when we're in that dorsal freeze, what brings us to sympathetic?
Yeah.
Right. What brings us out of the freeze state? So what are some gentle ways to get out of the freeze? We're a bit more energy in our body. So maybe it's movement, breathing, stretching, whatever. And then what takes us from sympathetic to parasympathetic into that safe social brain again. And having skill sets for each way up the ladder and write them down.
Yeah. And I did hear, I think it was Deb Dana who said this. I can't remember for sure, but she said like you kind of that once you've gone down the ladder, you actually have to go up the ladder. Like you can't skip from the bottom to the top. Yeah. And so that doesn't mean that you have to fight or flee to move through it.
Energy.
But the energy, you can still visualize it though. You could visualize yourself running in a field and being like, I'm running in the field, my hair is blowing in the wind and I'm feeling that could be that moving up the ladder, just that visualization.
Yeah. Because there's so much, and that's mindfulness, right? There's so much that we know about the brain and visualization that when we're in a state of visualization and a really state of it, our bodies know the difference. Right. If we're literally in that mindful, flowy state of like, I'm now running on the treadmill, my body starts to sweat and thinks it's on the treadmill. Yeah. So you can get, it depends on how deep into these states you are. That's how you want to match and meditate yourself up the ladder of those states again.
Right.
Being that social. And again, there's not a bad state. I'm not saying that they're bad or good, but the social, you're the most resourced, obviously. Yeah. Dorsal is good for freeze if you need to freeze. Yeah. It's there. It's biologically wired into us. These are biological states of behind behaviors.
Exactly.
Biology.
And if you need to fight or run from a lion, you do need to.
You need to.
Yeah. So it's a 5 billion year old system that is made we're scanning for threat all the time. Yeah. And just sometimes things aren't really threatening that our nervous system, that our database is saying that's threatening.
Exactly. Like your example earlier of the, you're in traffic and your body's in the lion, fight or flight, fuck you mode. Yeah. And you're actually just in traffic. Yeah. And there's not actually a lion, but our bodies are recognizing there's a lion chasing us. So there's so much now that we're actually, it's so fast. Like what's happened in real time, like how we've evolved as a species, our nervous system hasn't evolved that fast. Mm-hmm. So we are still in the nervous system of our biological wiring from millions of years ago of lions and saber-tooth tigers chasing us, but we're sitting in traffic. Yeah. So we got to slow it down to be like, hey, nervous system, I know you don't recognize that this is actually not a threat. Yeah. So I'm going to regulate you because there's not a saber-tooth tiger chasing. Yeah. You. Yeah. You're just a bad.
I'm going to deep breathe. I'm going to validate kind of whatever's going on in my body. I'm going to listen to me. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to bring myself back to the moment. And one thing I wanted to add too with partners, that I'm sure you say this to partners too, but see them as that younger part, right? Or person, like, when your partner's upset and they're frustrated and you see this grown person and you're like, seriously, get your shit together. Like, why are you acting out like that? Yeah. It's like, okay, maybe there's like the 7-year-old little part where you're like, aw, I can find my way back to like safe and social and move you, thinking of you as a little one.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't typically expect little people to be able to regulate themselves. Typically.
Yeah. So if I can see them as that person behind their big body, I can see that little kid inside there. I can have compassion and softness to be like, you're reacting like a 7-year-old because maybe there's a part that's still stuck. Yeah. As that 7-year-old.
Because at 7, maybe that parent wasn't there safely and securely to co-regulate.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes so much sense. Yeah. And such a nicer way to view each other.
Yeah. The inner child.
To be in a relationship. Yeah.
Love
awesome.
that.
Okay. Massive topic with lots of take homes.
Huge.
Yeah. So if you want to Google these authors again, so Stephen Porges is a really important one, I think, in the field. Yeah. The vagus nerve isn't his discovery, but the polyvagal theory. Yes. He's expanded it and there's just so much information. Brilliant. And then Deb Dana is one of his, many probably people that have put it into practice, but she's one of the ones that I recommend to follow and listen to because she's a therapist. So she puts it into practice for real people.
Yeah. And then Sarah Baldwin is just brilliant. She's been trained, I believe, by
Peter
Levine,
Pat Ogden. I don't know.
Pat Ogden, probably.
And then Deb, I think, trained her. No,
I think that she's connected to her. She's brilliant anyway. Okay. So I love all of her work. I love following her and implementing her stuff.
She's a good podcast. I listened to her. I think you did too on Mark Grove's podcast.
Yes. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. Most mind blowing. She's so fascinating. She knows this stuff.
I think actually.
She's so good. Yeah. And then there's another Justin.
What is his last name?
Sunseri. Sensory. I'm not sure. He's got a podcast called Stuck Not Broken that I really, really love. And it's just all about the polyvagal theory. Like he's nerded out into just being like, this is what I do. I love this. And he's breaking it down. So
very small, like he's got really small segments, like they're 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it's another great free resource out there.
Totally. So those are our
kind of our go-tos for, there's many more, but those are kind of the go-tos for today. Cause it's a massive topic. So be kind to yourself.
And then also, our favorite mentor and friend, Stan Tatkin, all of his work is integrating the polyvagal theory and arousal and developmental neuroscience and attachment. So if you're anybody who's in any kind of relationship, any of Dr. Stan Tatkin's books are phenomenal.
Any of them for sure. And again, send us your DMs, send us your emails if you'd like to be part of or learn from us, how to learn from each other, to learn about the histories and the attachment systems and that kind of stuff. If you're curious about the individual stuff, I've got a masterclass that's ready to go. It's already out there, but curious to hear your feedback for sure, as always.
Well, awesome.
Cheers. Did you know that these cups, I put them here on purpose?
They're for my mom, aren't they?
Yeah, they're your mom's cups.
I recognize them.
Yeah. These are our co-regulation cups from your mom. Cheers.
Cheers.
We're just drinking water if anybody's asking.
Yes, totally. not this
That's
early.
later. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks so much for joining us.
We're really glad you're here with us on this journey.
The best way to support this podcast is to subscribe and give it a 5-star review.
See you next time.
This has been a Bread Dog Studios production.